Zach, I'm just curious. I know you played with Nazem Kadri for a long time. Just what stands out about him as a player, and are there any favorite memories you have with him when you were teammates?
Yeah, I mean, lots of memories. Played together for a while. I was a rookie, and I mean, just a great guy, a great teammate. I think we had a really young team, and he was a guy who, took care of the young guys and made sure we were comfortable. So, and just a great person. Good friends with him, and as a player, I think he brings a lot to the table. Just he plays with emotion. He plays with a ton of emotion and passion, which is something that you always want in a teammate and a player. And he just brings it every night, and plays a 200-foot game, both ends of the ice, and it's hard to play against. So just a really good player.
In the middle, Ryan.
Zach, we've been asking you about your starts, kind of all playoffs here. I just wonder if, as an individual, there's things you need to make sure you can take care of, to ensure the team has a good start, because it sort of comes down to individuals, I would think.
Yeah, individuals, and then obviously, that turns into the collective group. And I think as individuals, I think we've been here enough now. We've been through 2 rounds. We've been through a season, so we should know how to start a game. I think at times, throughout the playoffs, we have started games on time. I think we want to do it more often, obviously, and this is a big test for us coming into Colorado. So I think individually, just doing whatever you have to do to get ready. It's hard to speak for other guys, but just getting focused and being ready for puck drop.
Left side, Kristen.
Zach, a lot of focus on the superstars in this series, but just how valuable is the depth of your group going to be, given what Colorado has on the other side as well?
For sure. Good to see you, Kristen. It's going to be, I think obviously there's a ton of star power in the series, and everybody's talking about, McDavid and McKinnon, and rightfully so. I think it's great that the league's marketing like that, and it's great that fans can see that matchup that they've wanted to forever. But I think there are obviously a lot of really good players in the series, and oftentimes it comes down to depth, depth scoring, and I think that everybody has to be ready for their moment, because you don't know when it's going to be. And I think both sides have a lot of players that can make an impact.
Second row, Mark.
You're obviously right about all that, and the depth matters, but is there any fan element in you as a player or in general about seeing McDavid, McKinnon? I mean, do you get at all into that hype? I mean, is there a curiosity on your end?
I mean, I think it's just great for the league and great for hockey, and I think those guys, they don't see it as, McDavid versus McKinnon. They see it as, Edmonton versus Colorado, and as a player in this series, I guess that's how you see it is Edmonton versus Colorado. But I can see how, from a fan perspective, it's an enticing matchup, and one that people have been waiting for a long time. 2 of the best players in the world. I mean, more than 2 of the best players in the world. You have Leo's there too. He's right up there, I would say, and they have some great players as well. So I mean, just it's gonna be exciting.
Back right, Josh.
Zach, you've Mike Smith's been in the league a long time. You're playing with him for the first time this season. What stood out to you about him and his game and how he's able to do it, and what's also like having a battler and a vocal leader in the crease as well? Yeah,
He's been fantastic, and like you said, he's a vocal leader, a guy who's been in the league for a long time, and I just think that you said, just his battle. I think that's what is the most impressive in every game. He doesn't give up on any pucks. He's always into the game. He's passionate. He plays with passion, and he loves it. He loves playing. He loves winning, and you can see the excitement after a win on his face, and after a big play and whatnot. So he's just a huge part of our team.
We'll do a few more here for Zach on the right, Mark.
Tell me about, excuse me, the pressure builds. We're in round 3 here. But for guys like yourself and Kadri, who played in Toronto, a ton of pressure there. You learn probably a lot as a young player in a media market like that. Is it like dog years, like is 1 year in Toronto or 3 years somewhere else? And as you approach this, is it easier to be calm after having sort of lived the career that you two have lived?
I think it's easier to be calm as you win playoff rounds, as you get closer to your goal. In Toronto, we didn't win, so things escalate and boil. I think if we didn't win in Edmonton, or if they didn't win in Colorado, same scenario. It'd be a lost season, and you'd have that pressure mounted for the following year. So I think winning solves everything, and I think neither team is satisfied with where they are. But at the same time, there are 4 teams left, so each team left has a real opportunity to win the Stanley Cup, right? So, and then, yeah, I mean, in Toronto, I think things compound, and it's a passionate market. And I obviously haven't gone on the first round, so that it adds up.
We'll do 2 more, left side.
Zach, your last sentence there kind of led me to this question, and that's that you haven't been this far in the playoffs in your career until now. And I'm wondering what you've maybe learned throughout the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks that has got you to this point, or that you've learned about your game.
I think just from a team perspective, like just how fine the line is, right? And I think we talked about it in the LA series when we were down 3-2. Nobody kind of remembers that as you go on and as you win, but the guys in the locker room do, right? Like you're 2 games at the brink of elimination, and you're able to come back and win that series, and then you're able to win against Calgary in 5, right? So I think all those little things add up and help build that sense of confidence in your game and your team. So I think from a team standpoint, as you win, you get more confident, but at the same time, the teams around you are winning too. So everybody has a sense of confidence going into this round, and that's why I think Game 1 is going to be a really exciting one.
Last question, all the way in the back.
Morning, Zach.
Morning.
In the 3 games that you played the Avalanche in the last month of the regular season, what was your personal biggest takeaway from those 3 games?
They're fast games, really close games. I think 1 went to overtime, 1 went to shootout, and we won 1 at home. But just fast. I think the hockey was fast. Obviously, it was going to be a little different in the postseason. But a lot of skill on display and exciting game for a regular season game. And I think they're really tight games.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you, everybody.
And there was Edmonton Oilers forward Zach Hyman kicking us off on the Oilers TV live pregame show. Welcome to the Ball Arena. We're live as we have head coach Jay Woodcroft coming up right behind my right shoulder in the next few moments here. And for the first time since 2006, it is the Edmonton Oilers as one of the final 4 teams contending for the Stanley Cup. They, of course, play the Colorado Avalanche, who slayed some playoff demons in their own right. Going back to Hyman, of course, what a second round he had. He scored in every game against Calgary. We'll also be hearing from Tyson Barrie, I believe, after head coach Jay Woodcroft. Of course, they'll be teeing us up here tonight. And this matchup here, this conference final here in 2022, the first time since 1989, the 2 teams who averaged more than 4 goals in the opening 2 rounds are meeting in the 3rd round. That, of course, was Chicago and Calgary went on to win the Stanley Cup in 1989. And I know it's cliche, but your best players, well, they have to be your best players at this time of the year, as Nathan MacKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid all rank top 6 in NHL all-time playoff scoring when it comes to points per game. So it's easy to say that they simply get the job done, as it's all headlined by 97 versus 29, Connor McDavid versus McKinnon. But, of course, you can't forget Draisaitl and Cale Makar, but it will be a testament of the team's depth, as we heard from Jared Bednar earlier this morning, and of course we'll hear from Jay Woodcroft as well. All right, so we're going to continue this Oilers TV live pregame show. Stay tuned. Jay Woodcroft coming up next.
Like the 6 o'clock starts as opposed to the 8, whatever they were before.
I just playing games, Ryan. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter the time. It could be 1 o'clock start. It doesn't matter to us. We'll be ready. Everyone's excited for it.
What are the details that you want each of your players to focus on early to ensure you guys get the start you're looking for?
Well, I think against this team, it's important that you manage pucks. If you turn the puck over and make it a half ice game for them, they're a very dangerous team. So you want to be able to manage pucks. You want to do things just in this building to ensure that we're getting people involved. So quick shifts, good line changes, that type of thing.
Right side, Josh.
Jay, Evander was asked the other day about the importance of message sending in the playoffs, especially when the margins are so tight between these types of teams. How important is that in your eyes about not saying like penalties or suspensions, but just the sort of the dark arts of the game and when the margins are so close?
I've never heard it put that way before. I would say, for us, we've been one of the most disciplined teams in the NHL the entire regular season. We stress a few things. We stress wanting to play our game between the whistles, but we play hard, and we play hard between those whistles. We maintain scrum discipline, so we're not a team that gets involved in a lot of the antics that happens after plays or whatnot. We have a strong belief that if we play our game and we do it between the whistles, that we'll come out on the right end.
Right side, Mark.
So you guys scheme for LA in the first round. They're not much like your team. They don't play the same way. Calgary for sure didn't play the same way. Is this Colorado team a little bit more like looking in the mirror when you look at the way they play?
Well, I think you're right. All 3 series present different issues and different things that you have to key on and focus on. I think this Colorado team, obviously, their record in the regular season speaks for itself. They were able to have that type of success because of the players that they have and the type of style of game that they play. They're fast. They can hurt you if you turn pucks over. They have good special teams. And, it's going to be a good challenge for us tonight.
In the middle, Ken.
Jay, when you have two teams that are so dynamic in transition, how do you strike that balance between creating or encouraging the creativity, but also stressing the importance of puck management?
Well, I think as much as we put a focus on the other team and what they do well, our main concern is playing towards our identity, playing towards our strengths, and ensuring that if we put our concentration on our own game, we have a belief that things will take care of themselves. The other team's going to do some good things, and we understand that. We understand that there will be moments within this game tonight and within the series where the other team is going to present some problems. But our belief is that we have the people in our dressing room that can handle that.
Right side, Jim.
How difficult is it to play against a defenseman like Makar, who plays like a forward, plays like Paul Coffey kind of used to play? So is it, as a coach, are you always looking at him as almost as a forward defensively?
Well, I think he's a special player. He's someone you have to have an awareness or be alert when he's on the ice surface. But for me, their team is littered with really good hockey players. And we would be remiss if we only focused on one of them. I think, as I said, we have a deep respect for his game and what he can do, but we're game planning for the Colorado Avalanche, not just Cale Makar.
Any more questions for Coach? No more questions?
Good, thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thanks, Coach.
We were talking to some of your teammates yesterday, and they categorized you as a beloved figure in the city and in the dressing room. I'm just wondering what your emotions are coming back here for a playoff series. I mean, you're not conflicted, you're an Oiler, but just, what do you feel coming back here for this?
I think enough times passed now where, I've played them a couple times, and the weirdness of it is kind of left. So it's, like you said, I'm an Oiler now, and ready for a good hard-fought series here.
More. I know you were close with Nate when you were here. Can you just describe the difference between his game and McDavid's game and just how they're both such potent players?
Yeah, I think, they're both as good as it gets. I think they go about it a little differently. I think Nate's, they're both super fast. Nate's a little more powerful. I think Connor's quicker. But when they're both on, it's tough to stop them. So to see those guys go head-to-head will be awesome. And, Nate puts a lot of work in on his game, and so does Connor. There's a lot of similarities with how they prepare and how they go about kind of being the top of their game. So they're different, but they can be the same beast when they're both on their game.
Tyson, you guys have played against some good offensive players in the playoffs here, but maybe this set of offensive players is a little bit different. How big is the challenge of the type of speed and offense and power they come at you with, and what do you guys need to do to defend that type of skill and speed?
Yeah, this will be our biggest test, I think, as far as the offensive guys they have, and and then they've got the offensive guys on the back end too who are coming. So to defend it, I think we've got a good structure. We've been kind of put in place the last few months of the year, and we've been executing it throughout the playoffs, and I think it serves us well in against any team. So we'll just have to be mindful of what we're doing and not giving them any needless opportunities and turnovers, mistakes, that sort of thing. So it's going to be a good test for us.
Right side, Pat.
Tyson, nice to see you again. I guess, do you still have a house here? And who got the better end of the deal when you house swapped with Kadri?
I do have a house here, and he definitely got the better deal, I think. His spot was beautiful in Toronto there, but his condo living, and it was great, but I'm more of a suburb guy, I think.
Stay on the right, Josh.
Tyson, goalies are different cats, and there's different types of goalies. You have one who's a vocal leader. What's the locker room dynamic with a guy like Mike Smith? Jay said last series that he's a guy that guys really want to battle for him. You always want to play well in front of your goalie, but he's a guy that you really want to battle for. So what's the dynamic like playing with Mike Smith?
Yeah, I love Smitty. He's one of my good buddies, and he's in there battling for us every night. You can see it. He's a competitor, and he's a great guy, and a lot of fun in the locker room. He's a vocal guy in the locker room, so he's probably more of a vocal leader than most goalies on some teams, but you definitely he wants to be in the trenches, and you want to be there for him. So he's played great for us all through this playoffs, and we're really happy for him.
Left side, Daniel.
Tyson, you and Brett Kulak seem to have found a nice on-ice chemistry there. I'm just wondering, though, in this series with the Colorado's extended depth, do you feel like you might need to kind of either change the way you play or maybe take on a bit more of a defensive role, given that they have a lot of offense they can throw at you guys?
No, I don't think we'll change the way we play at all. I think we're feeling good. We're playing well as a pairing, and I don't know why we would change anything at this point. Maybe if they start lighting us up, we'll switch it up. But at this point, we're going to go and do what we've done to get us here, and that's kind of the game plan.
We'll do two more. Right side, Jim.
Tyson, a lot of 40-year-olds think like 40-year-olds, and they start bringing up, other bands or whatever. Does Smitty that way, or does he think like he's 25?
No, yeah, Smitty's still a young guy. He can't let the old man in. He's still, he takes his shirt off. He looks like he's 20. He's in great shape. He's staying young, for sure.
Last one, stay on the right, JF.
Tyson, you played with Cale Makar briefly in the playoff in 2019. I guess at that time you knew that Makar was going to be good, but the way he's playing right now, are you impressed? Or?
Yeah, I knew I was in trouble right when I got on the ice with him the first time. I was like, I might be out of here. He was exceptional. You could just see the way he skated, the way he moved the puck early, and then to come into that series against Calgary, and he was taking guys one-on-one, and his first NHL game, he scored first couple shifts. He was super impressive right from the get-go, and he was a great kid, and not surprised to see how dominant he's been, and it's super impressive to see what he's doing, and we're gonna have a heck of a time trying to slow him down.
Tyson, thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And there was Tyson Barrie rounding out the Oilers media availabilities here at Ball Arena. Game 1 goes tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain from Denver, Colorado. Should be a spectacular show on for hockey fans in oil country and all across the world. All right, so that's going to do it for me for the live portion of this Oilers TV live pregame show here from the Ball Arena. We still have a lot more coming up, including the Colorado Avalanche media availabilities led by head coach Jared Bednar, and then he'll be followed up by Mikko Rantanen and Josh Manson. Manson, of course, playing against his father, who is an assistant coach for the Edmonton Oilers and came alongside Jay Woodcroft on February 10th, added to the coaching staff. So something to keep an eye on, and a storyline that will certainly be big in the Manson household, as well as the panel presented by Sportsnet with Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer. We'll have that at the tail end of this Oilers TV live pregame show. Bye, everybody, and see you for postgame tonight.
In the middle, Ryan.
Jared, just wondering about Mike Smith, kind of his ability to play the puck and how aware and conscious your players need to be when it comes to making those plays at the red line and dumping it in and trying not to let him be that difference on their break.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be very aware, right? We were kind of, running into a little bit of that with Binnington, after watching him come into their previous series. And, we have a plan to forecheck it if we can keep it away from him, and we have a plan to forecheck it if it goes to him. So I'm not going to go into details.
Second row.
Jared, coming back here to start a new series, how do you regain the home ice advantage, and how important is that home ice advantage?
It's always important. It's why you work all year for it. You got to go play your game. That's what it is. It starts with the drop of the puck, getting a good start, and getting to our identity, just like we talked about last round.
Back up front.
Yeah, are there some benefits to the amount of rest you had between the second round and this series compared to the first round where you had a lot of rest, but it was maybe, I remember you said you wanted to play now.
Well, I think after you get a couple days off, I think regardless of how much time you're getting, 7 days or 8 days or 4 days, you kind of get anxious and want to go. That's where the players are at this point. They want to play the games. It's nice to get a few days. I think this rest has just been perfect. We've had very similar time again as our opposition. I think that, hopefully the rest after the first round even does us some good now. But we've been pretty steady here, just a few short practices and all of our prep work and getting the guys brought up to speed on what they're going to face in Edmonton.
Jared, you mentioned a lot last round that St. Louis is a very opportunistic team, and they didn't really put a lot of shots on Darcy, but not that you want to give up more offensively, but will it kind of help Darcy to face a little more shots to kind of get into the game?
Don't know. We'll see. And not that St. Louis is an opportunistic team. They're not. My message with that was, we were carrying the play pretty good in some of those games, and your checking game's got to be in order every shift, because even if you're doing a good job in carrying play and the bulk of the shots and even the bulk of the scoring chances doesn't mean that they can't come down the ice once and hurt you. And if we're doing our job and playing the way we can against Edmonton, I hope it's the same way. But you have to be in tune with what you're doing in your checking game every shift, every guy. Otherwise, obviously, these guys have some finishers as well.
Fourth row, Ken.
Jared, with Gabe Landeskog, what stands out about his leadership qualities and his ability to sort of set the tempo for your group, or the tone?
Real even keel guy, very in tune with what we're trying to accomplish as a team. I think he soaks it all in like a sponge and understands what our game plan is, understands all the personalities and their tendencies in our locker room. Attitudinally. So I think that, he's in a position to help guys out and comfort them when they need it, give them a kick in the ass when they need it, and give them a pat on the back when they need it. So he's I just find that he understands all the guys in the locker room, and he's such a good leader because he's not just worried about his own game. He's got it straight in his head what he has to do, and then he'll help everyone else out around him. So he's good that way. He makes his rounds.
We'll do a couple more for Coach. Back right, Josh.
Jared, two teams that are so talented, margins are so thin. At this time of year, how much does message sending or that type of part of the game matter? Maybe trying to get one or the other off kilter because the margins are so small.
I don't really look at it that way, honestly. Like going into the series for me, it starts about us. Like we have our plan, we give our guys the information we feel is pertinent about Edmonton, and especially at the start of the series, it's about us doing what we need to do to be successful within the structure of the game plan that we lay out. And so we try to make sure all of our guys are clear on that, and then gotta go play. Gotta go execute. Margins will be small, no question. You're down to the final 4 teams. They were small with the final 8 teams, and so it's going to come down to a save here or there, a play made here or there, and how well you can play your 200-foot game for me.
We'll stay on the right side.
Coach, Darcy stumbled a little bit there kind of near the end of the St. Louis series. After a couple days off, where are you at with kind of where he's sitting mentally?
Perfect.
Last question, second row, Mark.
Jared, we're all kind of neatly condensing the series to McKinnon versus McDavid. Obviously, you have a lot more matchups to think about, but how do you look at that matchup, knowing your top players need to be your top players at this stage of the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think it's a challenge. It's a big challenge for our guys. It'll be a big challenge for their guys. I like, for me, it's not McKinnon against McDavid. It's the Avs against the Oilers, So hopefully, we do a job on all of our matchups and we can win more than we lose.
Coach, thanks for the time.
Yep, thank you.
I guess to start, how do you feel about your game going into the Western Conference Finals and where you're at offensively?
Yeah, I think I'm building the right direction. It just hasn't been going in, but like I've said a million times before, it's a team game, and everything I do is for the team. So we were getting pushed for the wins and get the wins. So I'm not thinking about that. This is the wrong time of the year to think about your personal stuff. So I'm just playing for the team and do everything I can to help them win or us win, and just play it as hard as I can.
Fourth row, Ryan.
Josh, there's a lot of offense that both these teams can create, but your job is to shut down their offensive players. How do you feel as a blue line and just your ability to take on that challenge that these particular guys are going to create for you?
Well, obviously they play fast and they thrive off turnovers, so I think limiting turnovers the best we can. And then just staying inside your checks, I think all over the D zone. Obviously this team throws things to the net and they drive the net hard. So staying inside best you can, trying to limit second opportunities. I think it's similar to the round we just had, though that team kind of plays a similar style where they throw the pucks, possess pucks, throw it to the net, and go to the net hard. So we faced it a little bit in the last round, but I think it'll be a tough test this round too.
Second row in the middle.
Mikko, last round, you guys lost more games here than you won here. Can you talk about regaining that home ice advantage and what it's like to feed off of this home crowd?
Yeah, we know it's important in the playoffs, the home ice, and we didn't take care of it last round, but now it's another series, and we know we can play well home, and our fans are unreal, so they're obviously giving us a lot of extra boost, and now we just gotta go execute. I think those losses, both of them, we didn't have our A game, so it's on us, and we just gotta try to find it at home too.
Far right, Mark.
Josh, those of us that have been around the Oilers for a long time, we were just talking about this. We remember you running around that room as like a 3-year-old. I don't know if you would remember any of that.
No, I don't remember Edmonton. I remember some spots throughout my dad's career, but Edmonton was a little too early on. I think he was telling me that we got traded to Edmonton right after I was born. So I was a little too young to remember being around, but yeah.
I'm sure you've seen lots of your dad's film. What's in your game that was in his game? It's hard to be Dave Manson in 2022, I get it, but what is it that you do maybe that he did too?
Oh, you know what? I'm not sure. I watched some games, but I didn't. When I watched games, I didn't study them well enough. I've just heard from other people the way he played, and I think he was somebody that defended hard in front of his own net, and that's something I try to take into my game. But obviously, like you said, in 2022, it's a little bit different. The way he defended, I think we skate very similar. I've heard. But just trying to play that hard-nosed, tough to play against style of game that I think he did so extremely well back in the day.
In the middle, Ken?
Mikko, what about the quality of the chances you've been able to generate? Is it something where two, or maybe you get one, you might get a bunch?
I think so. Yeah, I think it goes like that for every player. You know, you just gotta get one, and it gets a lot easier. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of chances. It's just you gotta bear down and try to find a way to get it past the goalie. So, but like I said, not think about it too much. Just try to keep what I'm doing, and as long as you're creating chances, eventually it's gonna go in and help the team.
Up front.
Josh, when you're playing a team like Edmonton that has as much speed, especially their top-end talent, how do you toe that line between making sure that you're respecting their speed but not giving up enough space?
Well, I think that's the challenge, right? That's the tough part that you kind of have to figure out is how to set your gaps, but not without giving up too much where they throw it behind you and they beat you with speed, but not giving up so much space that they are able to create off the rush so much. So, I mean, I wish if I had the perfect answer, I think it wouldn't be an issue, right? But that's something that we just kind of have to figure out as we go through. And I think as you look in the O-zone, it's making the reads early. The earlier you can be up and reading where the puck's going, the better off you'll be.
Do a few more questions. Left side.
Sorry. Josh, just what has it been like playing with Jack Johnson, and what has he brought to the blue line since he's been back in the lineup?
It's been great. I mean, I played with him a little bit throughout the regular season as well while Sam was hurt. So he's a big guy, been around the league for a long time, knows the right plays to make at the right times, and he's a strong, solid defender. Obviously a talented player to be able to stick around the league for this long, and he's a good voice. He's got that presence, that calm presence on the back end, so you can talk to him on the bench, and he's been good to play with.
We'll do two more. Jim on the right.
Josh, has your dad seen his granddaughter?
Yeah, we had some good time yesterday. Yeah, he came over, I think, right after they were done practice, and so they played a bunch, and she was all over him, so it was great. It made me happy too.
She doesn't know. How old is your granddaughter?
She's 2.
So she doesn't know anything about hockey?
No, she has.
She's not pulling for one side or the other?
Well, she better be pulling for me.
She loves her grandpa.
She does love her grandpa, but I think she better be pulling for me, and we're gonna have words.
Thank you.
Last question in the back right.
Still on your, does the father and son love will take a break for the next few days, or how is it gonna work, like texting, calling?
Oh, no. Family comes first. That's been my dad's motto always. I think it's different because he's behind the bench. He's not on the ice, right? So that's I think makes things a lot different. But family comes first, so we'll talk and we'll communicate. But we talk hockey, but it's never about each other's teams or personal things. So I think the relationship really doesn't need to change. He'll be there for me, and I'll be there to talk to him about whatever. But I don't think there'll be no lines crossed. I mean, we'll keep our secrets to ourselves, but we'll still have that good relationship.
Okay, so maybe like a break for advice, like on your play, I guess.
What's that? Sorry.
I mean, I'm guessing that after a game, sometimes he's calling to give you advice. Is that gonna take a break, or?
No, he never really calls to give advice unless I'm really in a slump and he just can't hold it in anymore. then maybe he'll say something. But it's always short, and he's so good at reading your body language and your tone of voice, kind of to know when to push and when to back off. I think that's what makes him a good coach as well. But he knows, he knows how to handle situations. So. There's never too much advice. I think through this series there'll be even less though.
Josh, Mikko, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Well, for the first time since 2006, the Edmonton Oilers find themselves among the Final Four contending for the Stanley Cup as they take on the Colorado Avalanche, who have slayed their playoff demons in their own right. As I'm pleased to welcome in Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer, a pair of voices of the Edmonton Oilers. You can hear them all playoff long on 630 CHED. And I got to begin this panel by giving some props to you, Jack, because I know during the regular season when Edmonton and Colorado met, you said multiple times that was a potential Western Conference final preview, and here we are. If the regular season series serves as any indication, what can we expect with Game 1 on Tuesday?
Well, we can expect a pretty even series. We can expect a pretty even game. I mean, if you look at the season series, they split 8 points equally. Colorado won the 2 games that went to extra time. Edmonton won the game that was decided in regulation. And each team could kind of say, well, this happened because of that. I mean, Edmonton went in and I thought turned in one of its best performances of the year, the first game in Denver, a beat-up hockey club, and found a way to carry Colorado into overtime. And then there was another wrestling the helmet type of situation. We've seen that a couple of times during this season in the National Hockey League. And then a great game played here at Rogers Place that went to a shootout. And finally, the final game was one where Colorado would say, well, we're kind of playing out the string. And it was kind of during that lull in the Avalanche's season that Florida ultimately caught them for the President's Trophy. But Colorado, in my mind, was the best team in the regular season all year long. But it doesn't matter where you're at in the regular season. It only matters where you're at right now. And they're in the same spot. And in fact, Edmonton polished off its second-round series in 1 fewer game.
In the third and final meeting between these two clubs in the regular season, Edmonton's win, that was their ticket into the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so far in these playoffs, Bob, it's been all offense from both of these clubs. This is the first time since 1989 that two clubs have averaged over 4 goals per game and are meeting in the conference final. Chicago and Calgary did that in '89. Of course, Calgary went on to win the Stanley Cup that year. Safe to say, we're going to see offense on full display.
Well, I think the league's got to be electrified about the potential matchup. You know, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Oilers increase in added depth, and the Colorado Avalanche, obviously, with Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and all that depth that they added at the trade deadline. And it's, you know, we just got off an incredible series. I mean, the Battle of Alberta, from a pure entertainment value, the coaches might not have loved it, but I'm going to tell you right now, the broadcasters and the fans said it was awesome. And if you're a fan of the Edmonton Oilers, and if you're watching this right now, you probably are, it ended the right way. So Colorado is going to be a step up in weight class. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't expect quite as many goals scored in the series. It is interesting. Darcy Kemper, we saw both extremes of Darcy this year. Yeah. Darcy Kemper's currently got a .904 save percentage in the playoffs right now. Mike Smith's played better than him. And yet again, Mike Smith about to face a goaltender that we know that the Edmonton Oilers were interested in. They were interested in Jacob Markstrom 2 years ago. Smith totally outplayed him in that series. And we know that the Oilers had Kemper on their radar screen via trade this past offseason. So, you know, and Mike Smith is he's a fighter. And I think that he sort of personifies a bit of the resiliency that the Edmonton Oilers have as a team under Jay Woodcroft. So the league has to be stoked that we got 2 offensive teams, 2 teams that can play an up-tempo game, and I think it's going to be a terrific series.
And all that offense is led by the team's respective best players. I know it's super cliche, but during this time of the year, Jack, your best players have to be your best players. And Draisaitl, McDavid, and McKinnon, listen, they all rank top 6 in NHL history when it comes to postseason points per game. What can you say about their ability to come through in the clutch in the way that they have?
Well, I mean, Connor McDavid, you know, was a tour de force in the first 2 rounds. There's no other way to put it. And I think you couldn't have scripted a better ending than Draisaitl to McDavid for the winner in that Calgary series, because Leon Draisaitl set a record for points in a playoff series, and that series went 5 games. And we know Leon's playing a little banged up. We know Darnell Nurse is playing a little banged up. And Colorado has some wear and tear on their players as well. But Nathan McKinnon is coming off a series in which he scored one of the most amazing playoff goals you'll ever see. A goal right out of the late 1960s when Bobby Orr was quarterbacking the Boston Bruins. I mean, you've got electrifying players, but the support players, as Bob mentioned, have also come to play and also had contributions. When Colorado was pushed a little bit by St. Louis, Nazem Kadri, who had been targeted by the Blues, delivered a hat trick. When Edmonton was pushed by the LA Kings and then the Calgary Flames, Evander Kane had a couple of hat tricks. I mean, in other words, their support players, Zach Hyman, Gabe Landeskog. Let's not forget the Colorado captain. I mean, there's contributors all over the ice for both teams, and that's the only way you can get to the Final Four. And I would agree with you, Bob, that to this point in the playoffs that Mike Smith has outplayed Darcy Kemper, but from Darcy Kemper's standpoint, you just need to survive in advance. You need to have one more save than the other goaltender, and if your team outshoots the other team 40-20, that's fine if your save percentage isn't that great, but you've advanced. And that's why I don't think there are any advantages right now except this. Edmonton got to see Colorado 3 times late in the season. There aren't going to be any surprises. Now, you can flip that and say same thing, but Colorado kind of breezed through the season. If we can agree on anything, we'll agree that Edmonton's season has been anything but a breeze to this point.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you take a look at what happened in the respective last series for the two clubs. I mean, Colorado, McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog all played north of 20 minutes a game. The Oilers had 5 forwards in the playoff series against Calgary play over 20 minutes a game. McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, Nugent Hopkins, and Hyman. And then on defense, very different approaches. Dave Manson basically, and part of this is because of Darnell Nurse playing through an injury, but the Oilers had all 6 defensemen play 17 to 21 minutes a game. The Avs have lost Samuel Girard. They also lost Ryan Murray, who was probably their 6th. He's been out, got hurt against the Oilers way back when we were in Denver, Colorado, back in early March. And they're in a situation where that top pairing of, Makar is obviously a very special player, and Devon Toews, who's, what a trade for them. They gave up 2 second-round picks to get him. Those guys play 27 minutes a game against the St. Louis Blues. So different approaches on defense, but up front, both teams, they load up their top guys and they get after it. And Kadri is a key. I mean, he's done a good job historically against McDavid. The Oilers' face-off percentage, people say, oh, Bob, you talk too much about face-offs. It matters in this series because of special teams and how good Colorado's power play is. The Oilers had a tough end of the series against Calgary in the face-off circle, and Colorado were not a great face-off team in the regular season. So there's little things that can matter in terms of special teams, but we got a cavalcade of star power in this series, and we got 2 teams that can skate. This should be, for the National Hockey League, a dream matchup. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, it should be a great time indeed. You guys have mentioned Nazem Kadri a couple of times here as the potential X factor for Colorado. So I got to ask you, who's the X factor for Edmonton? Does that place the importance of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at a slightly higher value?
Well, that's a good name to bring up because he's another elite support player that delivered when Edmonton absolutely needed it to solidify its home ice advantage in Game 4. I mean, the Oilers' season was teetering there when that 132-foot shot went in, because I don't mean to suggest that they would have been eliminated, but that could have been a huge worm turner in the series and in that game. And instead, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins pounces on a rebound and punctuates a final 8 minutes of Game 4 where Edmonton outplayed Calgary despite weathering that shocking setback. And I believe, again, going back to what I said in terms of the rocky waters in this season, I would suggest to you the Oilers have navigated far more. The one thing I'll say about Colorado, and Bob touched on it with respect to the injuries to Girard and Murray, the Avalanche have dealt with that all season. Now, they haven't had the ups and downs. They've won throughout a year in which all of their best players, except for Rantanen, I believe, were out for significant periods of time. They lost all those guys, and they won without them, and it's not the first time they've done it. Nathan McKinnon is not a guy who's played 82 games a great deal in his career. Landeskog has been banged up the last couple years. So both of these teams, I think, have shown, and part of it is due to their coaching staffs, an ability to win no matter who's in the lineup at any point in time.
All right, well, I'm going to go a little bit different path because I'm going to concede that with McDavid and Draisaitl, McKinnon and Makar, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get superstar players. Yeah. So my wild card for the Edmonton Oilers is going to be Evander Kane and his deployment. There was a switch made in game number 7. Evander Kane was part of the reason why Matthew Tkachuk was as quiet as he was. I think he got through to Tkachuk. This is a guy that can play on the level in the top 6 and was prepared to back it up. And Nazem Kadri has been, historically speaking, a bit of a thorn in the Oilers' side. And Evander Kane has the capacity to provide a different dimension than any of the team's top 6 forwards in the 2 respective clubs. So for me, Evander Kane is going to be a bit of an X factor. And for Colorado, I'm going to go with Andre Burakovsky. And here's the other thing that both teams have with those 2 players. 2 players that are hungry playing for contracts. So I'm going to be because they're both UFAs at the end of the season. There's going to be interest in them around the league. And I think we're going to be, you think we were entertained in the last series? I think we're going to be highly entertained in this series as well.
Don't underestimate the importance of coaching in this series, too. I think you've got 2 of the league's brightest minds, and quite frankly, a lot of people were thinking, oh, Daryl Sutter, Jay Woodcroft. Well, Jay Woodcroft, as he said, pulled a few levers in that series that turned the series in Edmonton's favor against Calgary, while the Flames employed a tactic of basically, here's what we've got, here's what worked throughout the regular season, come beat us. And Edmonton found a way to do it, and do it in 5 games. And Jared Bednar inherited one of the most difficult propositions I think an NHL, especially a first-time NHL head coach, has ever had to deal with. When he came in midstream in what turned out to be a disastrous offseason for the Colorado Avalanche, and then a regular season. And then a year later, the Avalanche were in the playoffs, knocking on the door. And as you said, they've exercised some playoff demons of their own. So this will be an interesting series for me to watch the different adjustments the two coaching staffs make throughout what I expect will be a long series.
Well, all I gathered from you two here today is buckle up, hockey fans. It's going to be quite the week. Edmonton and Colorado meet for the 3rd time in postseason history. Back in '97, it was the Avalanche winning in 5, and then in '98, the Oilers shutting out the Avalanche in Game 7, 4-0. Of course, they're hoping that history repeats itself from 1998.